I hope you're doing well. Thank you for taking out time to talk to PharmaShots again. So, you know, just a little recap for our new audience, new listeners. Hi everyone, this is Himanshu. Uh, Coming to you from PharmaShots. PharmaShot is doing a series of interviews. David Dodd has accepted to be the first one on this series of interviews. And GeoVax and David Dodd is not new to PharmaShot interviews. We have done a previous interview in March 2024, which is basically a couple of months back. So here we are once again. What we will be doing is the recap of this interview, the previous interview. We will be putting that link also in the description of this interview so that everyone is on the same page. You can listen to the previous interview and to this one and understand what GeoVax is doing. So once again, thank you, David. Let me
You're
not
welcome.
take up much of your time and start without more delay. So my first question to you, what has been new with GeoVax since March 2024? What are the new updates? So yeah, let's discuss about that.
Sure, and thank you again. It's a pleasure to be back. Well, since March, which is approximately a little over 3 months ago, a lot has happened with GeoVax, culminating in the announcement 2 weeks ago of the award from BARDA of almost $400 million in support of a phase 2b trial evaluating our next generation COVID-19 vaccine against an FDA approved vaccine. We believe it'll be one of the mRNA vaccines. Beyond that, we've also continued to progress with our other clinical trials that are underway. As you may recall, we have several underway for the same vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. We've continued to progress there, as well as our Gedeptin cancer therapy, solid tumor cancer. We have announced the closing of that trial. And since March, we've also reviewed the final results. We haven't announced those publicly. That'll be done over the next few weeks now. But what we have indicated, and I'm happy to touch on it in this call, is that we do plan to go forward with an expanded phase 2, which we hope will perhaps be the basis for registration even. So a lot has been going on, as well as another program regarding our Mpox, smallpox vaccine. So we've been busy. Culminating in these recent announcements related to the Project Next Gen.
So busy is good, I guess. You can't complain that being busy is bad. So I think that's a good news.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say that again,
So
please.
yeah, let me start with a very obvious question. Let us first talk about the BARDA project. You have gotten BARDA funding from the new project of Next Gen award, basically. So, can you tell us the details of that funding? Because from the press release, I got to know, or I read to know, that it is in basically sort of two parts or three parts, basically. So it's a bit confusing for a lot of people that a part says $23.6 billion, then which could be extended to $45 million, and then there is 300 and something $1 million, 365 or $400 million, something like that. So can you
Sure.
tell us about that funding, basically?
Yes, and it comes down to a very simple overview. But you're right; it's sort of been laid out by the government in the way we've had to communicate it. People have to add, and I'd rather make it easier for you to understand. First of all, in April of 2023, the White House and Health and Human Services, or BARDA, announced Project Next Gen. That was specifically to be the follow-on to Operation Warp Speed, recognizing that the first generation COVID-19 vaccines, although they played a very important role in being able to provide some level of defense against the threat from SARS-CoV-2, they had several major critically concerning shortcomings. One clear one was that the breadth of those vaccines in terms of providing protective immunity is very narrow. In other words, every time there is a new variant of concern that emerges, so we started with the Wuhan strain, we went through Delta, Omicron XBB 1.5, we're now talking JN1 and certain sub variants. So every time there is a significant variant, they have to be reconfigured. And that is not done overnight. And typically, by the time a reconfiguration is authorized to be administered to people, we're halfway to the next variant now. So the breadth has been concerning. The other has been the durability, because we see that the protection levels, the protective immune levels of mostly the neutralizing antibodies, are lasting not quite 6 months. So some people say 2 months, some people say 4, but let's say it's 2 to 6 months, something in that realm and all, which is far short of what should be delivered. And so the primary basis of Project NextGen was greater breadth and durability of vaccines and recognizing it. So we were selected specifically for that purpose because of what our clinical data of GEO CM04S1 has been showing in the clinics. It's been showing significant breadth in the sense that we have been able to show protective immunity from the original Wuhan strain all the way through the Omicron XBB 1.5 without having to reconfigure our vaccine. So we clearly are showing greater breadth. And then durability, our clinical data is currently demonstrating 8 to 12 months, and that's versus let's say 2 to 6 months. So we're about twice the durability. So our product was selected in the program for that. The other elements of Project NextGen, which do not relate to GeoVax, but are part of the program, important to understand, is there is seeking of vaccines that would have different delivery modalities, oral delivery, mucosal, nasal delivery, because they recognize that a greater offering of types of deliveries will probably improve the acceptability of people in getting additional vaccines, because that has been rather dismal over the last year. But for GeoVax, it was about breadth and durability of the vaccine, and that's why we were selected. Now, it was a $5 billion program. It works in a couple of different manners. In our case, it works in that there is a direct funding to cover our regulatory costs, our manufacturing costs, and all of those types of things. And that it amounts to either 24.3 million, willing to go up to 45 million by the government. And then our clinical trial costs, which amount to $300+ million. In this case, 343 million has been awarded, and that's to the CRO with whom we've been paired, which is the one that we had put into our proposal, Lucent. And so the total cost is between $367 million and $388 million. And so essentially it's close to $400 million to support specifically a phase 2b trial of 10,000 patients comparing our vaccine, CM04S1 as we refer to it, against an authorized FDA-approved vaccine, probably an mRNA in our understanding. And so that's what we'll be doing. We're already into the planning stage. It was announced last week. Our CRO is Lucent, so we're going, full blast into this program. It's our #1 priority.
That's great. And thank you for sharing the details and making it a bit more clearer for me and people like me who did not get it completely. So thank you for that. You have partially actually answered one of my questions, which I was about to ask, but how do you plan to spend the grant and the fund which you have gotten? So you have told that, you're planning to do a phase 2b study. So maybe you can break it down for a little bit for us that, what exactly will it be for the recruitment purposes, or do you have some sort of a plan in mind?
Well, the process that is utilized in Project NextGen, similar to many federal government grants or awards, is that it's a cost reimbursement. Built into the cost or certain overhead and all, so we're not losing money, making some money, covering certain costs, et cetera. And so we've already begun to provide and submit the invoices, et cetera, to the federal government for cause. They allowed us to do a look back at certain activities that were related to this program. So that's very much appreciated and all. And so that's how we will do, and they will pay directly on our behalf our CRO Elucent for specifically for the activities and operations of this clinical trial. And so basically, it takes off of our responsibility and balance sheet the need to raise $400 million to be able to run this trial in completeness. In other words, being able to produce the product, handle the oversight of it, do all the assays, do everything that's related to this program and all, including the operational aspects of the trials, the recruitment, the monitoring, the follow-up, everything is estimated at approximately $400 million. And this Project Next Gen Award covers that in its entirety, and it's basically broken down to direct costs that we'll handle the reimbursements of, and then the costs from Elucent for this trial, which we will work closely with them and basically be in concert with that, and then they'll be funded on that. Elucent is part of the clinical trials network that was set up by BARDA under Project Next Gen in 2023.
Okay, thank you. So very basic question, when can we expect to see this phase 2 trial, start recruiting, patients basically, because it's a huge number, 10,000 patients is a huge number. So when can we expect this study to start?
Early next year is what is anticipated. The work in terms of preparation, the number of sites, there can be as many as 100 sites to be able to put this trial together. Obviously, it doesn't start when all of them are ready, but on a rolling basis, as most clinical trials do. But we and Elucent and our other subcontractors, our CDMO, our other activities that we're working on and that people work with us on. So our broad full team is already in concert on ongoing meetings. And so the process is underway, but we anticipate it'll be in the first half, early part of next year that we'll start seeing patient enrollment occur.
Nice. So, I know you said that it's going to be starting in early next year, 2025. So, is there a glimpse of a study design which you think you can share with us or with our audience that you already told that 100 sites are going to be there across US, I guess. Then, is there a specific sort of category of patients or subjects which you are planning to recruit? So anything which you can share in terms of study design would be highly appreciated.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be of interest. Well, there'll be healthy adults generally. So we'll be targeting those. There'll be diversity across the population. So we will include that from those. And the age range is basically 18 probably to 65. I'm not certain. I think that's what is covered typically in that category. It'll actually be a much larger version in some ways, and it'll be a randomized comparison. So each patient will be randomized to either receive the GeoVax COVID-19 vaccine or the FDA-approved vaccine. And what we'll be able to do with this is have some insight of it, because we completed enrollment last fall of our 63 patient phase 2 study among healthy adults of evaluating our vaccine CM04S1 as a booster for individuals who had initially received an mRNA vaccine. So we'll probably have some insight in those data. The final data from that study will be coming out in fourth quarter of this year. So we announced in early February initial data from that study, showed the immune responses, et cetera, but that'll give us a glimpse of it. But basically, it'll be a randomized trial. It'll be of generally healthy, adults, so the general population, and it'll include parameters of diversity, make sure we have different populations represented in there. So all of that is laid out in the current protocol.
Okay, nice. So before I ask you about my next question, I want to ask another question that you specified that, results are expected in the fourth quarter of this year from the phase 2 study. So there were a couple of, I'll not be able to, I'll not name the vaccines, but there were a couple of mRNA or RNA vaccines basically which were used. So are you able to say that, if the healthy volunteer has taken mRNA vaccine one from X company, have shown your vaccine has shown better, booster ability in that patient population versus the other mRNA vaccine? Is that something which, being assessed? I'm pretty sure you must have assessed that. So is that something which you will be able to share with us?
The data that will be coming out in fourth quarter will be immunogenicity data of showing what our vaccine induces and elicits in terms of both antibody and T cell responses, with the T cell being the big point of differentiation in our vaccine because we induce both sides of the immune system in there. And that'll be after it has been followed by an mRNA. So that trial is not a randomized comparison. However, we have two trials underway in phase 2, one of which is among chronic lymphocytic leukemia patients, and we have a built-in interim analysis point, and that patient has just entered the trial, and so later this year, we'll be able to see and announce or report the interim results from that trial, and that one is comparing our vaccine, CM04S1, against the Pfizer BioNTech, specifically as a booster after all patients had initially received the Pfizer vaccine. Then they're randomized, and half of them receive our vaccine as a booster, and the other half receive the mRNA. So those data, at least the interim review, will be reported later this year.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, I get it. So I wanted to also know, you said that this study, the BARDA sponsored or funded study, probably is going to be the registrational study for this molecule, CM04S1. So
Yep.
when can we when are we expecting the approval or filing at least? Any estimates in mind or any targets in mind?
Yeah, the BARDA trial, if I said it, I misstated, is not a registration study. It's a phase 2b study. As a booster trial, we would anticipate, and our regulatory guidance suggests this also, that a phase 3 trial will be required. And we
Okay.
would, and although it's not a part of Project NextGen, we believe that any of the vaccines being evaluated under Project NextGen, under phase 2b 10,000 patient trial, in a comparative manner against an approved product, if they demonstrate, let's say, good results. Good results in our case being the breadth of coverage of the variants and the durability as one would hope for, then we believe that the route to registration will probably be somewhat expedited. Now, for GeoVax, the reason we're developing CM04S1, focusing on immunocompromised patients with chronic lymphocytic leukemia and also other blood cancer patients, et cetera, is because we believe in our advice from regulatory advisors, et cetera, and discussions with regulatory experts have been that if we demonstrate what we're hoping to demonstrate in our current phase 2 trials, that there will likely be some form of an expedited review, either because these are orphan populations, meaning that there aren't that many of them, they're at high risk. The people who are immunocompromised right now, they don't respond successfully or adequately to mRNA vaccines. So if we end up demonstrating in those clinical data what we're hoping to demonstrate, then we believe there will be an expedited path to registration. What does that mean in terms of timing? The actual response is we really don't know until we sit down with the regulatory authorities, but we would imagine that could give a regulatory timing period for registration to a period of maybe perhaps 3 years if we're able to drive such a a next program for that faster.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think I've asked enough questions about the BARDA, Project Next Gen. So let's talk about your partnership with Elucent for conducting this phase 2B study. So very obvious question. There are multiple CROs and clinical research organizations. So why Elucent?
There are probably two really important reasons. One is that Elucent is part of the Project Next Gen Clinical Trials Network. So they
Okay.
had already been selected. They have a history of working with BARDA successfully. So they're part of that network. However, we also, in our proposal for this program, for this award, we had included as our preferred CRO Elucent. The reason why we did that is Elucent, we have an established relationship. They are our CRO that we independently selected and have been working with over the last 3 years, almost 3 years now, in support of our COVID-19 vaccine phase 2 program, so our CMO4S1, as well as Gedeptin, so in the oncology. So from that perspective, it's a very good fit for us, because had we been paired or partnered with a CRO, regardless of how good it is, its experience, et cetera, but one that was a new relationship, as you can imagine, you go through an acquaintance period of getting to know one another. We've already achieved all of that. We work very closely with Elucent. They worked with us in putting our proposal together. We were aware they were part of the network, but perhaps even more importantly, we already have been working with them specifically on our phase 2 trials for CMO4S1. So for us, it enables us to go forward in a much more not only efficient manner, but expedited manner towards the implementation of the clinical program.
No, definitely, that makes actually sense. That actually makes sense. So another question is, so I mean, it's sort of it's clear to me, but again, I'm asking this question that when you continue to do a phase 3 study after this phase 2B study, or for the further development. So I guess that answers my question, that Elucent will be your partner, because they have been working with you for a while, and they are your partner for phase 2B study basically. So I think they are the obvious choices, I guess.
Yeah, I think probably from a public health standpoint, one of the greatest concerns and disappointments related to COVID-19 vaccines has been the lack of acceptance of booster vaccines, which has been largely driven by the requirement or the recognized need to have them more and more frequently. And every time a new variant of any concern emerges, it's recommended to go back and have another one. And so our entire focus from a booster standpoint is our phase 2 trial, which is currently fully enrolled. So the 63 patient healthy adult one that I referenced earlier is all geared to hopefully demonstrate greater breadth and durability, improved durability of protection, because we believe that COVID or SARS-CoV-2 is here to stay, and it's going to require, and what we'd love to see, an annual, along with a flu vaccine, an annual vaccine that will either be one that is variant agnostic. That may be ours, it may not be. We've demonstrated that thus far, but we don't believe that forever that'll be the case. But we have a rapid cloning method that we can quickly adapt it to and then go forward. But the key is the breadth of protection, meaning that every time there's a new variant that emerges that people are concerned about, we don't have to reconfigure. And then secondly is to ensure that the durability is close to 12 months as possible. And we believe that gives us, both by providing a vaccine that induces both antibody and cellular immunity, and is accommodating for people with compromised immune systems, as well as a preferred booster, gives us a very strong position in the marketplace, both from a clinical public health standpoint as well as from a commercial standpoint. So we're quite excited about this, and we think that in demonstrating that in our internal studies as well as this BARDA study, that we will open up expedited paths for registration, or at least for use, emergency use authorization.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for all this information. So, I mean, my last question to you is what? So we have spoken about the COVID vaccine in detail. So I also want to know more about the other molecules in your pipeline.
Okay.
You mentioned about the pox vaccine. So yeah,
Sure.
any updates there? Anything which you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think it's very exciting because CMO4S1, our COVID-19 vaccine, its platform, as the phrase is used, everybody talks about the platform mRNA or the platform adenovirus, et cetera. Well, ours is called Modified Vaccinia Anchor, or MVA. MVA, it differs because it's not just used as a platform, it's actually a vaccine. In fact, MVA is the vaccine that is FDA approved for protection against either mpox or monkeypox and smallpox. It's what is currently stockpiled in the U.S. federal government. And so there's an added benefit for our CMO4S1 against COVID-19 because it also conveys with it the protection against mpox and smallpox. So in those areas of the world where you may see endemic outbreaks or the endemic existence of monkeypox as a threat, our COVID-19 vaccine also conveys protection against that. So we announced approximately 2 years ago that we had acquired the rights from the NIH of their MVA with the rights to be able to develop, commercialize, and then distribute a standalone vaccine against smallpox and mpox. And that would then break the current monopoly worldwide that is held by Bavarian Nordic. And we would also thereby become the first US-based supplier, because onshoring, as you have heard a lot in the news, is very important to governments around the world, to not be dependent on single sources or on sources that are outside their control. And so we've been progressing with our mpox program. We call it GEO-MVA. It's basically MVA as a standalone vaccine, and that may actually be our quickest product to registration and commercialization. And then next to that, a totally different platform is our Gedeptin product, which is a therapy targeting solid tumors, for which we recently completed the first trial of a phase 2 program, and those results we'll be announcing over the next few weeks. So that one continues to progress, and we believe, again, by targeting specific populations, our initial one, advanced head and neck cancer patients, we have orphan drug status on that, and we will soon be reporting what the results are of that initial trial, but also we'll be announcing our plans to go for an expanded phase 2 program, which we think may also receive an expedited review process. So we've got a lot going on, but our priority clearly is this Project NextGen, but we have a lot going on, and tied into the COVID-19 vaccine. The MVA as a standalone is a unique, great opportunity for GeoVax to move forward into a commercial status, to improve the supply and the capability of being able to meet the needs both against the bioterrorism threat from smallpox and against the endemic threats that we see from mpox.
Nice. So I guess the next 1.5 year is going to be a very eventful year for GeoVax team. And so best of luck for that. And thanks a lot for giving us time and agreeing to talk to us once again and sharing your insights on the vaccine, on the Project NextGen. And it's really great. Thank you so much, David, for your time.
And thank you for your interest. We appreciate it.